Up for you today, another modern rose, this time bred by Peachy and introduced to the UK market in 1998. This one is the Macmillan nurse rose. A modern shrub rose, which is going to leave you with a slight problem. I love this particular rose. It's absolutely enchantingly beautiful, but it does leave me wanting more. It's so small and compact, reaching just 3 feet by 3 feet, that it just leaves me a little bit hungry for a little bit more. The flowers are produced in such volume that it just looks a little bit small and a little bit weighed down by the blooms. And I know this may sound a funny problem to have with a particular plant, but it's absolutely encrusted with flowers all the way from May, June, July, August, September, October, right up to the very end of October. It's absolutely laden with blooms all the way through the season, but it's a tiny little plant. And I just think it would be better if it was actually ever so slightly larger, but obviously that's a great problem to have. So we'll start with the very basics, as we always do. Peachy are marketing this one, as I say, as a small modern rose suitable for growing in a container or a large pot. So if you're gardening on a balcony, terrace or patio, it's absolutely perfect. And if you're wanting something that's going to work really hard, that's going to be in flower all the way through the season, the Macmillan nurse rose is something that you should consider. The foliage is emerald green and high glossy, like a lot of the modern roses, not particularly deeply serrated on the outside edges, but it's a really nice dark gloss emerald green foliage, which is particularly pleasant. The thorn count is variable. The rose itself, right down close to the ground to your pruning structure, around a foot away from the ground, is very thorny indeed, large barbs. But the actual sprays of flowers are borne on long slender stems. Well, I say long because the rose is not particularly large, but they are fairly long, 9 to 12 inch long sprays, which don't have very many thorns at all. You can see they're actually almost thornless, so really nice to handle if you're going to cut and bring this into the house. The stems are nice and strong, which helps also with the cutting if you're going to be bringing them in. There's a really nice key feature with this particular rose, not particularly apparent on this spray, which I'll put down. I'll just change it for this one for you. These lovely burgundy red port sort of colours flashes up the side of the stems that are actually bearing the flowers themselves. So you've got this nice long strong slender stem, which I say perfect cutting. This one's obviously nearly 12 inches long, bearing large sprays of flowers in clusters, normally obviously the first flower opening in the centre and encrusted with blooms all the way around the outside in 10s, 11s and 12s. So a really hard working rose, which is going to give you lots and lots of performance. Say most lovely characteristics is this lovely flash of burgundy red up the stems, which is really nice. They're also, if you can see, ever so slightly furry with little tiny barbs. Now you'll probably think that's a strange thing to say, but it gives you the look of a moss rose, one of the old-fashioned roses like William Lobb, or William Lobb is a prime example, where they are encrusted all the way up the stem and giving you a really nice look. The buds themselves are tinged with peachy pink as they begin to open, and then the flowers are this alabaster white cream, deeply rosetted in the centre. They're about 3.5 to 4 inches across. So on this size plant, they're really quite large and say born in massive numbers. But the bush is, for me, is just a little on the small side, and I really do want a little more from it. The flowers, I say, alabaster white, flushing with this beautiful peachy colour in the centre. They really are very beautiful. Fairly deeply cupped again for the size, so you've got that lovely bowl of petals coming around the outside and a lovely little pincushion rosette right in the centre. This particular rose is tolerant of a little bit of shade and a poorer soil. So again, if you're not particularly up there with your watering, you maybe have forgotten to put your saucers underneath your potted roses, this particular one is going to rebuff a lot of that and still remain healthy and vigorous at the same time. The fragrance is mid in its strength. It's not particularly strong, but I'm picking up on hints of vanilla and cake. So think of freshly baked Victoria sandwich sponge. There's a sugary sweetness there, I say, with a lovely vanilla-y back edge, which makes it really quite pretty. So all round, the Macmillan Nurse Rose from Peachy, Bred and introduced in 1998, is a really hard-working, healthy, vigorous shrub rose, but it's very small and compact. Reaching only 3 feet by 3 feet, it's going to leave you wanting a little bit more. And if, like me, you're already cautious about cutting too many blooms or bringing them into the house, this one may not get cut at all, because it just seems such a shame to take stems this size off of a plant that's only 3 feet by 3 feet. So this one alone, you can see this is nearly a foot long with around 10 or 12 buds coming on it, but a really attractive small rose if you're working in a small space. This one is the Macmillan Nurse Rose from Peterbilt's, all round a lovely little rose, I say, with a fabulous fragrance, about 5 on the 10-star fragrance rating, with hints of vanilla and cake and sugars in the fragrance. And opening this lovely alabaster white with these sort of marbles of peach. So if you're familiar with David Austin roses, this one is really going to be picking up the colour of Litchfield Angel, that lovely sort of porcelain white with that beautiful vanilla-y cream in it. If you're thinking about sort of comparing the colours to anything, it's a sort of an ivory cream wedding dress type look. But a really lovely rose, and I really like to say this purple streaking, this red burgundy up the back of the stems, which sets the blooms off particularly nicely.